Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name's JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get it. We are here live. We are here to talk about the season finale of The Peripheral. Season 1 is done, and I am sad and depressed and brokenhearted, and I have fucking questions.
Lots of them. Holy smokes.
Yeah, this show was like, this episode went off the rails, and I loved every minute of it. I did not see it coming. There's a lot of things that I got right in this show, and I'm pretty proud of that. I did not see the ending coming, and I don't want to ruin it yet. But
I don't even know what happened, and I watched it.
Well, I know what happened because it answered a question that you and I have had a couple of times through this season. And one that Mattson even brought up when he and I recorded, I think episode 5 or 6, when you were off doing your thing. But man, what an episode. They tied everything up. All
Pretty
the storylines that were going on throughout this season, more or less, have either had a nice little pinch that says, hey, we got to a point where it's time that this storyline is going to shift. Like Corbell Pickett's story, right? So please forgive the Jets. I live by an Air Force base and they're doing drills today. So sorry about that. So Corbell Pickett, he's alive-ish, which is a problem. I mean, considering how he went down.
Yeah.
He can create some problems in that particular. Oh, man, I can't believe we're talking about this because I keep thinking about the end, and now I'm like, does it even matter? But anyway, so Corbell Pickett is in that storyline setup. He's in the ICU.
He's in coma.
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough bastard, so it doesn't surprise me that the dude's still got a pulse and kicking around. He's just going to be one pissed off son of a bitch when he wakes up, I think. Yeah. Jasper. Go Jasper.
Jasper showing up to the party.
Yeah.
He's got his uncle in him.
Oh, yeah. Got a little bit, didn't he? Well, and I loved it. Like, that whole sequence I really liked because you can tell this guy's got issues, and rightly so. Like, you're not Corbell Pickett's nephew and raised by him and come out okay. Like, it just it doesn't work that way. But I love that, like, you can see that. What's his wife's name? Billy? Is it Billy Joe or?
Yeah, something like that.
Billy Ann or something. I think it's Billy Ann or Bobby Ann. I don't know. Anyway, one of them South Carolina, one of them Carolina names. But I love that his wife, like he calls his wife saying, and he calls her to say, like, I'm doing something bad.
Remember Monopoly when I was winning, but then Burton came from behind and you told me to stop being a little wimp? Yeah. She's like, I didn't mean he's on the phone like, well, then why did you say it?
Yeah. You do realize the stakes are a little different here. Like, we're talking about Monopoly versus killing someone with a train. Like,
killing 3 people, killing your entire crew.
My opinion, they deserved it. But
of course, they're terrible people.
Pricks.
But that kind of ruins your whole enterprise you got going. Like, what's his backup plan? Where's his actual employment going to be from? He's got to put food on the table still. Before they blow up the missile silo and send it to the jackpot.
Right. Well, and I think here comes the big piece of it, right? So, like, with Jasper anyway, somebody's got to fill Corbell Pickett's shoes because power abhors a vacuum, right? Like, you can't, it doesn't work. So someone's going to fill in. And I can see Billy Ann leading Jasper down that road, especially like, because now you have, with what happens in the end, you have a little more freedom from Burton and that crew, right? So
yeah,
I think they'd be a good one to be running the drug trade in their little town. Probably do it on a little less disastrous level. but still just as scary, if not more so, than Corbell Pickett, just in a different way.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
And then we have Ash, who will probably not be around for much longer as soon as Zubov figures out she sold him out to Newland.
Boy, howdy.
That whole fiasco that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Yeah, there was a lot that was happening in this episode. It was very nice to see.
Yeah. Well, and I loved the whole Ash thing, like, because even her partner dude was like, what? Like, because you get to see that cold streak in her where it's like, oh no, you messed with the wrong person. And I get the enemy, the enemy of my enemy and all that, but to pick Newland as the enemy, frenemy, whatever you want to call it, that's a dangerous freaking.
Yeah,
that woman
immediately escalated it.
Oh yeah,
Ash is like, hey, I know where it is. It's in her brain. And Newland's like, you know what? I can deal without it. We're gonna escalate the jackpot and the stub. And Ash is like, come again? What'd you say?
Yeah. We're gonna destroy the entire stub and start over again. I was like, oh wow. You just went there.
I mean, that went from 0 to 60 pretty darn quick.
Yeah.
And then let's not forget the inspector.
Oh, I love her.
Best character aside from Burton.
So good. Yep. So good.
And her whole thing with helping Flynn, but keeping a foot in every single camp.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling she might even be, biting off more than she can chew.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's dealing with now forces where she does not have complete control.
Yeah.
Right. She can't open stubs or, change the way the stubs are, so to speak. So now she's stepping from this almost like total control where she knows exactly what's going to happen. And she's moving away from that into uncharted waters.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it will always be messy.
And doing it with people that the aunties have no control over. Like they have not enough data because it's now, and especially by the end, that is a 100% completely unknown entity quantity. However you want to calculate that math, there's no calculating for what Flynn can do in the future. Like none.
Yeah, it's a big old mess. Because you've got Zubov, who's in deep doo-doo with the Klept, like 155%. Then you've got Newland, who has decided to just torch everything. She's going scorched earth. Then you've got the inspector, who's playing both sides of Psycho Street a little bit. So, and then you throw in the mix probably the three most unhinged humans ever with Burton, Connor, and Flynn.
Yeah.
They're going to create a whole new jackpot in the future.
Man. What a show, man. Because I'll say this. When I was like still going, what the hell are they going to do? Halfway through this episode, right? And then you see mom's falling sick again. There's no way to cure her. They're getting ready to blow this stub up, get ready to destroy it and cut it off. And then you have this, and it took me a second to realize what Flynn was doing, but she has this secret meeting with Connor that they cut off. I was like, why would they even put that scene in here? Because it was like 2 seconds long, right? And then it cuts to like a completely different thing. But then she's having this conversation, and I will say that the only time I ever had an issue with this show was last night's or Friday's episode. The fight scene was a little janky. it felt like, hey, we need a cool moment here. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
Do they just like leave the peripherals and stasis underneath the church?
Yeah. And then when they come alive, like you can just tell like the choreography. And I don't want to be a shithead about it because I'm glad that they did it with practical fight effects, right? Like they didn't try to CGI this shit. But whoever was Flynn's, and I don't know, maybe they left what's her face in there and Chloe Grace Moretz in there to do the stunt. but it looked like it was either rapidly like rush choreographed, or whoever was playing Flynn in that moment had a hard time with some of the choreography because it looked a little jankier than normal, especially considering the Burton fight early on and like some of the fights later, even where she's fighting, like it looked really good. So I feel like this was like a rush. Hey, we need an exciting moment here, because most of, as good as this episode was, most of it was a lot of like talking and setting things up.
Yeah,
so I
big
think
reveals and kind
yeah, so I feel like they felt like, hey, we need this like really cool actiony moment. Let's have this fight scene here at the Stub Creator plant, whatever it is. And then it felt rushed. But that's like so nitpicky, it's ridiculous. It's just that there was a couple moments I was like, that looks terrible, but that's okay. It's still cool.
yeah, it's cool enough to ignore.
Yeah. And the whole rest of the show is so good that, and this is what I'm talking about. When you have a show or movie or any kind of entertainment like this that's so damn good 99% of the time, the 1% I will laugh at and say that was bad, but I don't care. I'm okay with 1%. You know what I mean? How many? Okay, so here's question number one that I had
Number one, okay.
watching this show. It's not the question, but it's question. The first question I had was, how many of these little stub creating machines are out there? Because it sounded like there were multiple places that they could send, and it was just the easiest one for Flynn to access, right? Like, that's for me, the conversation between her and the detective or the inspector sounded like, I can send you to a few. Here's the easiest one. Like, that's kind of what I got out of it. So how many of these places do they have where they can just walk in, push a couple buttons? Though I guess she had to go get the clock first, the watch first. So that, because wasn't the watch in a different location altogether?
I thought it was there.
Was it there? God, I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
I just thought maybe it was because we see that her plan really isn't to go into a new stub. It's to, spoiler alerts, to go to the future. So I was under the impression that she was going through this elaborate, the one that they picked was specifically so Newland would be there, where she would take control of the Peripheral and see this happen and to set Newland up. And I imagine that the Klept has one of these stub creating portal facilities. Same with the Met, but I feel like they set her to the RI one specifically so that Newland would start searching stubs and never think to look in her own timeline.
Yeah. Well, and that's, so I mean, she did create a new stub that started in 2032 with seemed like the exact same time that the one that started, like when we start the show, we're in 2032. So I was like, okay, so she's created a new stub of her timeline in her place. So there's a new version of them out there that has now the data. Well, she has the data that they can use to prevent the jackpot in that new stub that they just created. Here's the big question. Okay. Are we switching things up in season 2, or are we going to go back to this stub that she's now technically not a part of? Because that stub's still there, and she did what she did to throw Newland off and say, well, I don't need to blow up the stub anymore because the data's not there. Someone got her, right? Like, so I don't need to destroy this stub. When we come back to this show, like, obviously to me, what makes sense is based on how it ends, where we see that her consciousness has now been permanently moved to her peripheral. The Flynn that we've watched this entire season is now working with the inspector in her permanent future, whatever. But if her ability, like her consciousness is now that immutable, like she could go into any stub if they have the tech for it, right? So what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I think she's just gonna start bouncing around to stubs.
She's just got wild, dude.
She's gonna pop in like Superman, move a couple things around here or there, and pop right back out.
Yeah,
but yeah,
nutty,
it's crazy,
dude.
I wouldn't even be surprised if we start out in her new stub that she created, her new timeline.
Yeah,
and we see a Flynn Fisher that's a little bit different. different
Sure.
actors playing her or something like that. To the point where it's, you know, just this kind of the same story, but Flynn Fisher's different.
Yeah.
And so when she goes to visit these stubs, if that's what she does, she's like, oh, that's not me, or type of a thing. Everything will be just a little bit tweaked.
Well, yeah, and that's cool. I mean, you get Connor without being blown up. You get no haptics, things like that, at least to a degree, right? At least not given for the experimental levels that they were given in the current stuff. My other question is that goes along with that. When she destroyed the watch, does that mean that stub is unchangeable? Like they can't, I guess, what does it mean by destroying? Like, did she lock that stub into place? Did she make it so they can't do experiments? Because in my brain, my other question that I had was, okay, cool, you just created this new stub. You have the ability now, because of this data that's in your head, to manage, at least avoid. And now it's completely readable because in theory, her consciousness being transferred to the peripheral permanently means the data should have gone with it, right? So they have easier access to this data, keeps the peripheral or the jackpot from happening in the new stub. But what keeps RI from using that stub and doing experiments there, right?
Well, when she crushed the watch, she said that something about the coordinates, right? That Newland wouldn't be able to do anything without the coordinates. So I wonder if when you create this new stub, like the coordinates are a specific time.
Gotcha.
And if you don't have the specific time down to, I don't know, the millisecond or something like that, you can't find the branch.
That would make sense. Yeah, because then you wouldn't be able to. Okay, that's fair.
They would
have
to go through however long this stub has existed, second by second almost, to try and figure out this branch, and it would take too long.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay. Because I was like, did you just create like a new testing ground for him? Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like,
way to go, Flynn.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, Flynn, I know you were trying to do something good, but come on. So, no, but that makes sense. And I knew that the implication was she destroyed the timepiece. So it either cut that stub off from that kind of thing or made it difficult. But then I was like, but if you cut off the time from the ability to travel there or do anything with it from RI, didn't you just do that for yourself too? But obviously, if she knows when she set it up, that would make sense. As you know, you have to have certain figures, or like you said, the coordinates have to be right in order to track it down. So it's good clarification there.
That would be my guess anyway.
I think it's good.
Can we talk about Wilf or the fact that this dude who like started out the season being the biggest brain in the world is actually dumb as a bag of rocks?
Yeah.
And I will give a little bit of credit. It might be his implants that are messing with him, but I swear it takes Flynn Fisher to figure out every single riddle that always has to do with his childhood.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that was a good reveal that, like, I mean, you just see the level of manipulation that this world that they're in is capable of. We've already seen that they're willing to manipulate emotions with what they've done with the stub. And that obviously, though, that stub testing and everything was to see how they could use it in real world. We now know that there's memory manipulation going on as well, to the point that, I mean, the little kid, the little Alita peripheral didn't have to dig very far to find a skull. I mean, there's obviously a lot of bodies buried there, and they didn't try to hide that shit because they knew that they could hide it technically, right, through the brain and through all that stuff. So it's like, ooh, this world just gets more and more twisted the longer you're in it and learn about it. And I love that they kept that like a complete mystery. Like there was no hint to that. There was no, until she just dropped that bomb and goes, look, dude, I took that out because you don't remember shit. Like, and now I'm starting to remember everything. Yeah. And you're right. He is kind of a moron. And like you said,
he's gotten dumber throughout the season.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're trying to showcase the implants effect or what even the implants really do. Like, is it a time-based thing where the longer you have them in, the worse your memory gets? But man, this dude couldn't solve anything. He's hunting for Alita and she's sitting in the park.
Yeah.
I did think it was kind of cool though, where he was talking. He's like, "You pulled your implants out. Like, you lost your immunity. Like, shape, you're gonna die. And she's like, shut up. You do not understand anything.
Yeah. Well, and then this whole group of people come up behind her that I'm assuming don't have implants either.
They look like
doing just fine.
Implants.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so again, and that really kind of puts a question mark on this entire world. Like, and especially for a guy like Wilf, where
he doesn't belong in this world.
Yeah. And everything that you believed up to this point, you have to start to question, because you've now seen and understand based on, I mean, not that you were questioning it to begin with that much, but when you think about Zubov and what he's got going on, like, now he knows even more, right, about how dastardly this dude is, and the lengths that he's willing to go. So why would you keep working for him? The second piece of that is your sister just opened up your eyes to the fact that she's still taking care of you and keeping your dumb ass alive. And it's like, and everything that you've been told and you believed in is a lie, and you don't remember the rest of it.
Yeah, that's gotta be so frustrating for Alita. Like, just smack the shit out.
Yeah, no shit.
Wake man. But I did, because they mentioned it. I did enjoy, or not really enjoy, but liked how they worked the Klept into it. Like, the Klept is responsible for this mass murder.
Yeah.
And that's how they become one part of this, like, trifecta. And you have the research. So it's like the Klept, where the bad guys, military arm, you got the Klept. And I don't know how the Met Police fits into everything. Maybe just keeping the other two in check. Keeping tabs on them, having all their dirty little secrets.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see, like, how the Klept kind of took their power, straight up murdered everybody.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like, to me, that's kind of the feeling that I got, that you have the Klept and you have RI that are just absolute terrible. I mean, to the point of being terrorists to a certain degree. And then you have also in the middle of that, you have the Met Police, to me. And because of the way that the inspector talked about, I can't create a stub because of restrictions. And it's almost like they've agreed there's certain levels of this world that they'll stay out of, as long as the other two don't mess with the Met and they don't go too far in a public pattern, right? Because the other piece that I also am very deep with the inspector is, obviously her memory hasn't been messed with to a certain degree, right? So it's like, who are the powers that be that don't have memory alterations or things like that we've seen, at least with Wolf and obviously with Alita? I mean, what's this caste system? Because there's got to be a level of, these guys don't remember shit, these guys remember a little bit, we remember everything.
Yeah, well, most of them don't even know what's real or not.
Yeah, that's also fair. Jeez, this show.
Like, the levels to it, we don't even know half the levels, like you were saying, of the hierarchy, who's in control of everything. And we're a season in, which I enjoy, but I really, really hope that they continue with this show.
They better.
I will not survive if they cancel it after just one season.
I mean, the good news is I was reading and I was surprised, but it had better reported ratings, like streaming ratings, than House or the Rings of Power. Actually, it overtook Rings of Power when it came to, like, because Rings of Power, when it launched, was like the highest streamed show that Amazon's ever had, and then this one overtook it. So we might have been wrong in assuming that people weren't watching this show. I just hadn't heard anything about it. You know what I mean? Other than the commercials, it was very on Amazon. So I'm glad that people are watching it, and I hope we get a season 2. I know the director, the showrunner, was talking about he has plans for season 2, and they've got some writers in a writing room already and started working. So, but there has been no official announcement that always makes me nervous with the way everybody's cutting things these days, and I worry when they already have a $1 billion baby that's committed to 5 seasons, and it makes me nervous. But I hope that they give this show a second season because it deserves it. It's great. Down to the point that let's talk about the elephant in the room and freaking Flynn's basic, take herself out of the equation and the way she had to do it. Oh, dude, freaking. I hope she told Connor that
her plan.
consciousness would be fine. And I think that there was a hint there because, you know, the whole way that we started, and I forgot about this, but I went back and started watching it with Casey because Casey hasn't been watching this with me. So I went back that same night on Friday and I watched the first episode again with Casey. And I forgot about the fact that, one, I was confused because she set the new stub up in 2032. And for some reason, I kept thinking that 2027 was when the stub was that we were watching, but it was 2032. So I was like, oh, nice. That's a good reminder. And then the other piece of it was, and I think the 2027 came because it's 27 years later in the future. Anyway, she makes a hint towards, she says something to Connor, I'll just count down backwards from 10. And that's how they ease their way into the sim or into the peripheral in the first couple episodes. Because Burton just tells her, they said, you know, count down from 10 and then you'll be in there. And so I forgot about that until I rewatched it. And she said that to Connor, I'm just going to count down from 10 and it'll be like, I just drift away or whatever. You know what I mean? So to me, that was her saying to him without actually coming out and saying, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be still alive. It's just my consciousness is going into this peripheral permanently. Which is also a cool thing for him because that means he can too. That particular Connor, which is what he wants. So for me, that's like a big, as hard as I'm sure it was for him to take that shot, somewhere in his mind, he's got to think, okay, I get what she's doing. She just told me. And now that means there's a chance for me to do what I wanted to do without even having the setup, right? Like I don't have to have the catheter. I don't have to have the, you know, the IVs and all that fun stuff. So it was an interesting take, but man, what a freaking brutal way to end the season. I was like, because at first and that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't even realize that they were going to take her consciousness because they've never hinted that that was possible, that they could just transfer her consciousness. So I was like, oh shit, are they really going to end this by smoking this Flynn? And then we're just done. So I was really happy when you see her wake up with the inspector, but damn, what a way to end this show.
Yeah, but they still kept it lighthearted in a way where, I mean, she's talking to Connor like, hey, Burton said you hit something from, 2 kilometers away. And he's like, yeah, he's lying. It was 3.
Loved it.
But I liked how they even tied it from like their conversation back to the beginning, or not the beginning, but the beginning of this episode, because we see like Connor's recovering after he lost all his limbs to the explosive dog, and they're talking about Sims, right? And like resetting, and that comes up in their conversation as well. Like, what, you're just gonna reset? Like, how do we reset this type of a thing? So that was kind of cool as well, because at the beginning of the episode, I was like, what's this fluff? I don't need this in here. Like, let's get going. We're chop chop. You got a timeline, but it makes sense, and it shows that they kind of had a deeper connection than was really kind of showed throughout the rest of the season. I mean, you see a little bit in the first couple episodes that they're close and they kind of, they're buddy, but it really kind of brings into perspective that at least the two of them are very, very close.
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of got a hint of that. That was another thing I was reminded of in the first episode, was the whole interaction when she's trying to buy the one pill for her mom, and he comes up and basically makes it so that they do it because he scares the shit out of these drug dealers. But it's like, but I love what you're talking about. And it also was nice because it hinted that he's basically, from that conversation where she got the idea on doing what they ended up doing across the board, right? So because, the explanation that she gave to the inspector was the black hole in video games. And I was like, oh shit, what a genius way to explain this. Because if you're not a gamer, it doesn't make sense. It's just, I got caught in the video game black hole. And you're like, what? Yeah, one poor choice in my previous gaming sessions has left me in a place where I can't get out of it.
Yeah. Happens to me all the bloody time.
Constantly, especially with like new games, like with these storyline games where you can make different choices in a lot of them. And I'm like, well, what happens if I do this?
And I love storyline games, which is a problem because every single time make the wrong decision. Perfect example, the Witcher 3.
Oh, dude.
Right? Where like, depending on how you answer, the questions in the first 5 minutes. It shows up at the end of the game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and then it's like when you do side quests, right? Like, so Witcher 3 again, you can go visit the freaking underwater witch lady, and depending on when you've done it, you're either screwed or you're okay. Yeah, so it was an interesting concept, but it's, you know, it really is what led to that conversation at the beginning, because I was the same. I was like, what is this bullshit? And then we find out that it's really how she's figured out how to beat Newland and Zubov. So it's just like, wow, what a way to go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I wonder, because if I'm Newland, I'm still nuking the stub.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know,
just out of spite, I'm doing it.
Flynn's not here. Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. I do not care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing it just because I'm sick of these people.
these guys suck.
Well, and for me, like, I thought the same thing, because I was like, she has to know, and if she doesn't, Zubov does. Not that he can do anything about the stub, but Newland has to know that the brother and Connor have been there too. Like, they're aware of the situation. Maybe not the data piece of it, but that's a big assumption that they don't, you know, that she didn't tell him that he's got data trapped. She got data trapped in her mind. So I'm with you. Like, I would be surprised if Newland wasn't still after that stub. I probably would have destroyed it too, just to make sure there's no. But you just and I are better villains than most writers. I mean, I don't leave loose ends, dude. That's
that's how it comes back. I've seen a lot of movies and TV shows. That's the worst thing you can do.
Seen way too many villains go down because they weren't ruthless enough.
Exactly.
Screw that. Screw that. Yeah, you would know what kind of,
like a chump.
Yeah, the jackpot escalation. You'd think you were in Vegas on a great day, buddy. I would be running that. Boy, I'd be screw one silo, dude. I'd blow them all.
Yeah, escalate if there was any kind of different outcome.
Yeah, any chance that stuff goes away. Yeah, what a great show, man. I'm so sad that it's over. It
was a good one.
So sad. Yeah, it got over, and I'm like, oh no. Casey had fallen asleep. That's why, like, I watched it with her, but she'd fallen asleep on the couch. So I was like, I'll watch this while she's sleeping. And she woke up to like the last 5 minutes, and I audibly, like, so when they showed, when you have this conversation with Connor, and then it shows her standing by the, you know, the little ledge or whatever, and she's going through her memories, and then you see, I was like, they are not going to do this. They are not going to do this. And then they show Connor behind his scope, and I'm like, they're going to do this. And I was like, he's not going to take this shot. No way he takes this shot. Then they pan away, and you hear the, I was like, oh, and I literally was like, what the hell, out loud, because I didn't know she was awake. She goes, was that not supposed to happen? I was like, oh my God, scared the shit out of me. I was like, I don't know. I was like, but I can't believe it. And then in that moment, you see that she wakes up, and I was like, wow. Casey's like, was this your show you kept telling me you think I'd like? I was like, yeah. She goes, all right, well, let's watch it. So that's when we started. I was like, yes, I get to watch it again, because I was like, it's just too good, you know? It's too good.
It's really good. Yeah. Easily the best thing we've seen
all year. Oh, yeah. And we've watched some decent TV this year. We've watched some shit, but we've watched some decent TV. It is by far the best. It's so good.
Most intriguing.
And different. Like, I mean, I think we mentioned, I don't remember. No, it was when we were doing White Christmas. Go listen to that episode. It was out today. We were talking about the fact that most stories have been told. You know what I mean? And it's hard to, like, find something unique. And while at the bare bones of this story, there's obviously, you know, it's got the same elements of most stories, right? But the way that they've done it, and in the way that they've actually portrayed it, is so unique and different. And they've done it just masterfully to keep you engaged, give you just enough information so that you understand what's going on, but not enough that you know what's going to happen 2 episodes from now, you know? And that is, to me, the mark of a great show. That's why I loved Westworld, because it did the same thing. You know, there was always enough for me to feel like I was smart, but enough to remind me that I'm not as smart as I think I am.
I am
dumb. Makes me feel like Wilf. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor bastard. Man. All right. Well, I guess.
Got anything else you want to talk about?
Not really.
Everything.
Yeah, we covered a lot. It was a great show. Yeah, blown away by that show. Glad we decided to do it. We are going to do, you and I, after we're done recording this, we're going to do a quick trailer review. Not live, sorry. But if you want to see that, it will be on our Patreon. So go check that out at What's Our Verdict. And we're going to do so January, my friend. They moved it to January. I told you February because that's when I thought it was originally going to come out. But January, The Last of Us.
All right.
January 16th, I believe. So we were wondering because we were talking a couple days ago, like, what are we going to do? So December, there's nothing. And I decided I was looking for shows and I went, you know what? We're going to pause on December. It's a nice holiday month. We're just, now that this is finished, we're just going to do movies. We have a schedule of movies.
Woohoo!
That you can also go check out at our website that's active again, whatsourverdict.com, and see what's coming for the month of December. So we're going to stick to our movies. We're not going to do TV. But January, The Last of Us will definitely be covered episodically. There's a new trailer that came out on Friday that I have not watched yet because I've been waiting it to do. And it has been destroying my soul not to watch it because I'm dying.
Yeah, that's like 72 hours, bro.
Dude, it's been rough. Because I keep hearing it and it keeps popping up on my feed because I'm like, that game is like life for me. So I'm excited. So we're going to do that. But yeah, so January, that'll be it. But it's going to be a quiet December as far as TV goes. We got some movies coming out always on Mondays. So, and while I'm at it, before I just do Alec's job, Alec, tell everybody where else they can find us.
You're doing great, JJ. Well, everyone, another day, another season finale. Thank you for tuning into The Peripheral. If you guys have watched all of our lives, thank you. If you haven't and are just joining us for the first time, we did the whole season, all 6 episodes. So go ahead and check them out wherever fine podcasts are found or on YouTube. You can find our other content literally everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and there is even a MySpace floating around the cosmos somewhere. Free bubble sticker to whoever can find that.
Nice.
Speaking of bubble stickers, our website is back up and running, guys, and we have all the merch. All of it. Holidays are coming up, and that means office parties and white elephant gift exchanges. Our merch makes the best white elephant gifts. So swing on by the merch tab at whatsourverdict.com and pick up a mug or a shirt or a sticker with Mattson wearing a bent brim hat. It's amazing. If you like who we are and what we do, but aren't interested in the merch, head over to Patreon and join our current patron, Soundless Klooge Splooge, in requesting the most ridiculous content ever. You will also get access to exclusive content, including the stuff that we can't put out to the public. Pink Flamingos, I'm looking at you. We'll be releasing here very soon on the Patreon.
Yes.
We appreciate the support in any capacity and hope to hear from you guys. Back to you, JJ.
Yeah, thanks, Alec. That's fun. Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Continuing on next year, but the holiday season, we're excited. This will be the last live of the year, I think. But we'll start doing lives again in January with The Last of Us, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of more TV releasing next year that we'll do some more. And I mean, I know they're already announcing The Boys season 4.
The Boys.
Plus the new spin-off of The Boys that's like a college-based called Gen V. Yeah, it looks
points for cleverness.
Yep. That's another trailer reaction we're gonna have to do. We'll wait for Mattson on that one though, because he loves The Boys, so I won't ruin that one for him. But yeah, lots coming. We appreciate you tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!